Good morning, everybody. How are you all? I hope so. You all are doing well. Myself, Sunil Pawar from New Catholic Mission High Secondary School welcomes you back for the new video session of 10th class science subject. As you know that we are continuing the biology portion. So today we are going to take this 9th chapter, heredity and evolution. As you know that this chapter is covering overall about the heredity as well as evolution. But you know that due to this COVID-19 and this lack of physical classes and also this one thing, CBSE deducted 30% course. So in this chapter also this half portion is deducted, that is the evolutionary process, okay, the evidences related with the evolution, okay, the different theories likewise this Darwinism and Lamarckism and the mutational theory of origin of a new species, okay, the different examples of the natural selection. These now are not in your syllabus for your examination point of view. So in this one we are just trying to cover this portion only, that is the heredity and inheritance, okay. So now we are moving forward. Dear students, I just want to ask you one question. Have you ever observed you are quite similar to your brother or sister, okay, somewhat similar to your parents, okay, your characters are matching with your mother, father. If you try to match yourself with your grandmother, father, whether it is maternal or paternal, then you also observe that some of character you are having from your grandmother, father, and even if you are having the photographs or the memories of your great grandmother, father, then you can still find some features with you, okay. But even you also find some differences are also there which make you different from your brother, sister, your cousins, right, your mother, father, okay. So if you want to search all the answers of this question, even sometime you observe that some parents are tall but their offsprings are short, right. This type of variations and this type of differences you can see in your nearby areas. Even you observe that some twins, they are identical twins but still they are having some differences, okay. So what is the reason behind it? What are the causes for also this one thing, okay. So this chapter, that is the heredity and evolution, with the help of this one thing we are able to search or find out all the answers of these questions, okay. So let's try what is given in this one thing and how can we answer this type of questions, okay. So first of all we are talking about the genetics, clear. So in general it is the branch of biology which deals with inheritance and variation of characters from parents to offsprings, clear. And one more definition is given, that is that is the study of principles and mechanism of heredity and variation. And you know that this Gregor John Mendel is considered as the father of the genetics, clear. This genetics word is actually taken from the word Genesis. Genesis means to descend, clear. In this one actually we are studying about the which one thing, that is the genetic material DNA, its inheritance. Inheritance means to inherit, how it just transfer from one generation to next generation, from parents to their offsprings, okay, and how it is responsible to maintain the quality of the features, okay, generation by generation. And along with this one thing somewhat variation is also observed. So what is the reason behind this variation, how these characters are slightly varies from this one thing, clear. So this all study can be made with the help of this branch that is called as genetics, clear. And this is a comparatively new branch of biology, okay. A lot of inventions are made, but first this G.J. Mendel, he was the person who tried to bring forward the new features and all about this one thing, clear. Now here we are just trying to learn about the definition of this inheritance. So it is the process by which characters are passed on from parents to progeny. and this is the basis of heredity. Heredity means to inherit, to carry, to transfer from parental generation to offspring and offspring to their offspring. That means generation by generation transmission of the characters can be studied with this happen, and it is called as inheritance. Okay, heredity is also kind of the same one, or it is a biological inheritance and is the passing on of the traits from parents to their offspring, okay, either through asexual reproduction or sexual reproduction, and the offspring cells or organism acquire the genetic information of their parents. Okay, so what you concluded, whatever the characters we have, these are actually coming from the previous generation, and who is representing the previous generation? Right, your parents, mother and father. Okay, you are receiving these characters with the help of these chromosomes. Okay, and one set of chromosome is coming from your father and one set of chromosome is coming from your mother. Okay, and togetherly when they fuses and comes in your body, no, then this togetherly with the help of dominance and recessiveness, they are deciding the characters of your body. Clear? So remember this one thing. Now you know that I told you, you are not identical with the others. You are having somewhat differences with the brothers, sisters, or the other people. Okay, no one is identical in this nature, and it is because of, and this phenomenon of becoming different is called as variation. So if you observe, so what is the variation? The degree by which progeny differs from their parents. Okay, and it may be in terms of morphological, physiological, cytological, behavioristic traits of individual belonging to the same species. Okay, so you can say that what is the variation? Variation means to varies, and in which manner? So you can say that the variation is the process of becoming different from the pre-existing one in any manner. It may be morphological, it may be anatomical, it may be physiological, it may be even behavioristic, okay, which make the present generation, okay, different from the previous one. It's called as variation. Clear? So now the differences in the characters among the individuals of a species are called variation. This is the simplest definition of the variation. Anything which differs you from the other, or any one member of a species from the other, will consider as the variation. Clear? Now how this variation is actually arises, so it may be because of reshuffling of gene or chromosome. As I told you, the previous generation is responsible to inherit this character to their offsprings, and during this transfer or inheritance there may be change of the gene in aspect of number, position, composition. Okay, or there may be change in the number of chromosome, position of the chromosome, their structure. Okay, anything can cause which one thing, this variation. Okay, the crossing over or the recombination. Clear? You learn in the 9th class, that is a cell cycle. In this cell cycle you learn about the meiosis. In meiosis, I hope so you remember about the prophase first. In prophase first, one interesting and very important phenomenon is observed, where the homologous chromosome comes together and they made exchange of their parts. Okay, this is called as crossing over. So that's why even the parents are similar, but their genetic material differs in their offspring slightly, and that is the reason why not the two offsprings of a parents are identical. Clear? Or it may be because of recombination. Recombination means what? You know that always the genetic material from the paternal side is continue in the same way, but always the maternal side bring the new character from the outside. Clear? And this way this recombination is observed. Clear? Then mutation and effect of environment. Here I just want to make you clear that what is the mutation. Mutation is a sudden change in the genetic material who is responsible to bring forward a new character or new features in the species, okay, or even in the effect of the environment also, that are the physical factors, clear. So these are the causes which is responsible to bring this variation in the new individual. So on the basis of the nature of this causes, we can categorize this variation into these two categories. One is environmental variation and second is genetic variation, okay. Very clear from the environmental variation, when the cause is environmental factor or a surrounding, then it is considered the environmental variation, clear. It may be because of diet, chemicals, radiations, environmental pollution. Any one of this cause can be responsible for bringing the new characters in the next generation, clear. And it is responsible for changing that generation only, because it is also considered somatic changes, it is also considered somatic variation, okay. And what is the speciality of the somatic variation? It will remain with that generation only, it will not carry forward to the next generation, remember this thing, okay. Now as I told you, it is called a somatic variation also, it is mostly restricted with the same generation and cannot be transferred to the next generation, because after the fusion, fertilization and the formation of the zygote, during the developmental phase of the embryo, either it takes place or even at the time of the development of the young one, it observes them. So it is responsible to make the change to vary from the others, but because it is in the somatic part of the body, so it will not carry forward to the next generation, right. When we talk about the genetic variation, so these are caused by the genetic differences in a population and which may arise due to the mutation, meiosis and sexual reproduction. You know about the mutation now, you also know about the meiosis, and one more fact, that is the sexual reproduction, okay, because you know that there is always the two sets of chromosome come from the two different parents. So there is more and more possibility to bring the new characters in this one, okay. Now here we are talking what is the importance of variation. So first of all, they form the basis of heredity, clear, okay. Most of the characters are transmitted or transferred in the similar way, but somewhat vary, that's why it is helpful for this one thing. Adaptability to adverse conditions of is brought about by variation, okay. This new changes may be responsible for bringing the new characters or the varieties of the feature who help them to cope up in such a better way or to adopt them with these newly arrived conditions, okay. Then the new varieties of an organism may arise due to the genetic variations lying the foundation for evolution, okay. So even it is responsible for the origin of a new species. You know that the gradual changes in the genetic material is responsible to carry this variation generation by generation, and surely once upon a time it will be responsible for the origin of a new species by changing these gradual characters, okay. So now this all about the variation. Now here we are going to discuss about the Mendel's contribution toward the inheritance. As I told you, Mendel was the first person who talk about the inheritance, who talk about the heredity, who talk about the variations, okay. But you just wonder that at that time even he don't know what is the gene, what is the genetic material, but only because of the observation, experience and its careful analysis, okay, he just finally concluded something inside the organism who is responsible to carry this character and how it determined, and he named that content as a factor, and now these days we are knowing this factor as a genes, okay. He propounded 3 laws of inheritance at that time when nobody knows about the genetics, okay. And now even this time these 3 laws are the basis of the genetics or the inheritance. Clear? So this fellow Mendel, he conducted the hybridization experiments on the garden pea, remember this name, that is Pisum sativum, for 7 years and proposed the laws of inheritance. Clear? One thing I want to tell you, this Mendel was born in Austria, okay. He was from a farmer's family. He completed his education and then later he appointed as a priest in a church. Clear? And you know that he taught there mathematics. It is interesting, isn't it? Okay, but still he was quite interested in this farming, okay, and he was just studied about which one thing, the characters of these different varieties, this one thing. Clear? So you just wonder that he made nearly more than 10,000 experiments with this garden pea and its varieties. Clear? And he concluded his observation in the form of the laws of inheritance, which you also know as a Mendel's law of inheritance. Clear? So what about also this one thing? First of all, we are going to discuss that why he selected this garden pea plant as an experimental material. Okay, so remember that this pea has many distinct contrasting characters. Okay, just like that, if we are taking the height, okay, then clear cut two varieties of this pea plant is there. One is tall and second is dwarf. No intermediate phase is there. Similarly, the color of flowers and also this one thing. So no intermixing, no intermediate characters are found. So it is easy to study them morphologically. Clear? Then lifespan of pea plant is short. Okay, so we can study it generation by generation. Okay, it is seasonal in nature. Okay, so that's why it is easy to complete the vegetative growth as well as the reproductive growth, and we can also obtain the seed easily for their further processing and development. Clear? The flowers show the cell pollination and the reproductive whorls being enclosed by corolla. Okay, the flowers are closed type in nature, so it is basically useful for cell pollination. Okay, but even though it is self pollinating in nature, it is closed in nature, but just by using some artificial technique we can also perform the cross pollination. Okay, and this way we are able to develop the hybrids. And wonderful fact about these hybrids is that they are fertile in nature. Okay, so we can continue the experiment, the result also. Clear? It is easy to artificially cross pollinate these pea plants, and so we can introduce the new character, we can remove this one from these features also. Okay, it is easy to cultivate anywhere. Okay, and at the same time a large number of seeds is obtained from the fruits. Okay, so that's why it is easy to study a large number of progeny in the same generation. So if variations are there, then it can be observed easily. Right? Then what is the working method or the important terms which we can use in this one thing? So first we are going to discuss all this one thing. Clear? So the Mendel's success was also due to his meticulous planning and the method of working. Okay, he planned very well, and not only the planning is important, he was succeeded to executing them properly. Okay, so he studied only one character at a time. Clear? So in one experiment he just focused on one feature only. So many features are there, but he focused on one features only, so that's why it is easy to identify the variation, differences or all such this thing. Clear? He used all available techniques to avoid the cross pollination by undesirable pollen grains. Clear? So that's why no mix up is there, no new character is appeared because of this mixing. Clear? He applied mathematics and statistics to analyze the results obtained by him. His mathematical knowledge was quite helpful to analyze the data, tabulating them properly and statistically find out the probability and possibility and the proper answers of these questions. Clear? Then he conducted artificial hybridization, pollination using the true breeding P lines. Okay, what is the meaning of true breeding? Those that undergoes continuous cell pollination and show stable traits inheritance. Clear? Just like that. He has taken one variety of the plant. Clear? Suppose that it is a tall one. So he was not considered the tall one, pure tall one. Okay, he allowed to self pollinate, and generation by generation, nearly 3 to 4 generations he repeated the same one, and still all the progenies or offsprings were tall. Then he considered that it is a pure trait. So all trait was identified as a pure trait by repeating the same process. Okay, so it was quite helpful for this one thing. The hybridization experiments include the emasculation and transfer of pollen grain. What is the emasculation? If the flower is bisexual in nature, okay, but before maturing the reproductive part, if we remove this stamens from the flower and we convert it into the female flower, then it's process called as emasculation. Okay, so it is easy to which one thing, import the new characters and spreading this one. Clear? Mendel called the factors that passes through the gamete from one generation to next generation. Nowadays it is called as genes. Okay, and what is the chromosome? You learn in the 9th class. These are the long thread-like structure present in the nucleus of a cell which contain hereditary information of the cell in the form of genes. You know that any species is having a specific number of chromosome and particular number of sets of chromosome. Clear? Then what is the DNA? It is a chemical in the chromosome which carries the traits in a coded form. You know that DNA is a genetic material who is responsible to inherit this character from one generation to next generation. Clear? Then here, what is the gene? Gene is a specific segment of DNA which is responsible to control a specific biological activity or the function of that organism. Clear? Contrasting characters. A pair of visible characters such as tall and dwarf, white and violet flowers, round and wrinkled seeds, green and yellow seeds. These all are the characters which is present in a pair and they are opposite to each other is called as contrasting character. Then later the dominant trait and the recessive trait. Okay. So when the character which express itself in the first generation, they are considered dominant trait. Okay. And who is failed to express themselves in F1 generation, but they will express them in the F2 generation. Okay. Or the traits who fail to express in the presence of the other trait, that is called as recessive trait. Okay, but they can express themselves only when both the two traits are recessive. Clear? Now, just like that, if you are considering the contrasting character of the tallness and the dwarfness. Clear? So here the tallness is the dominating character and dwarfness is the recessive character. Clear? If you talk about the shape of the seed, then one is round and second is wrinkle. Okay, so this round shape is the dominating and wrinkle is the recessive. If you will cross these two with each other and you will get the F1 generation, then this F1 generation will give you the 100% offsprings tall in nature or round shape of the seed. But if you allow to self-pollinating them, then F2 generation you will get 25% of the total offspring with the recessive character. Okay, so remember this fact. One more thing, that is the homozygous nature. Okay, so a condition in which both the genes of same type are present. For example, an organism has both the genes for tallness is it expresses TT and the dwarfness with small tt. So this is the homozygous nature. Okay, that means when this parent undergoes in the formation of the gametes, then all the gametes will be identical. Clear? And what is the heterozygous? One is capital T and second is small t. That means one is dominating trait and second is the recessive trait. Clear? Hetero means different. the zygote which formed by these two different traits. Okay, so when they will undergoes in the process of formation of the gamete, or what you call that, the gametogenesis, then they will form two different types of gametes. So that's why it is called as heterozygous in nature. Remember these two facts, homozygous and heterozygous. Now we are going to discuss the next term, that is the genotype. So what is the genotype? The genetic makeup of an individual is called as one thing, genotype. Okay, that means what genetic material is responsible for expression of its morphological feature, that is called as genetic makeup, or we call it the genotype. The second one is the phenotype. What is the external expression of these traits in an individual, or what you observe externally, just like the color of the skin, the shape of the eyes, okay, the shape of this earlobe, the height, okay, these all are appearing externally and you can identify them out from outside only. So this is phenotype, and remember this phenotype is decided by genotype. Okay, simply genotype is the combination of the genes who is responsible to exhibit the this morphological features of an individual. Clear? Then here we are going to discuss the homologous pair of characters, okay, which is basically responsible for contributing the new individual, right? And both the chromosome from the single pair is having similar number of genes, similar position and similar traits also. Clear? Then one more thing, that is the alleles. Okay, remember the genes that code for a pair of contrasting traits are known as alleles. Just like that, capital T, small t. A pair of genes on the homologous set of chromosome with the two contrasting character is considered as the allele, and the feature is called as allelomorph. Remember, okay, and remember when we exhibit their characters, then always in the form of the pairs. Okay, if it is homozygous dominating, just like if you are taking the tallness, then it is with the capital T, capital T. Okay, if it is heterozygous tallness, then capital T, small t. So remember this capital letter for dominating characters, small letter for recessive characters. Okay, similar either dominating or recessive, then it is the homozygous. One is dominating and one is recessive, then it is heterozygous. Clear? Now, so here we also observe that when we obtain the result of F1 generation, then 100% show the dominating feature. But when you allowed to self-pollinating them and got the result of F2 generation, then phenotypically it is 3:1. That means 75% dominating and 25% recessive, while in the genotypic ratio it is 1:2:1. That means 1 pure dominating, that is 25% pure dominating, 50% mixed dominating and 25% pure recessive in nature. Okay, so this is the fact about this phenomenon. Clear? Now Mendel considered actually 7 contrasting character, and these characters are basically stem height, which may be tall or dwarf. See that this column is showing the dominating character and this is the recessive. Remember this trait which is dominating and which is recessive. It will be very helpful to decide the number of offspring, the nature of the offspring and the result of the cross, okay, from the examination point of view. Second is the flower color. Violet is the dominating and white is the recessive one. The position of the flower, axial and terminal. Okay, what is the axial? When flowers are present on the axis of the plant, that is called as axial. And what is the terminal? It is not present on the axis, but it is present at the end of the main stem or the end of the branches, that it is called as terminal. So this is recessive, this is dominating one. If you talk about the port shape, then inflated and the constricted. Inflated is also considered as smooth. From outside you cannot identify whether it is this type of constricted or not. Clear? So this is the inflated and this is the constricted in nature. Then next the port color, the green. Clear? Now then here we are moving forward. There is a seed of the shape. Either it is round or wrinkle. Round is the dominating one and wrinkle is the recessive one. Okay, wrinkle means what? The folds is observed on the seed coat. Clear? Then the seed color. The yellow is the dominating one and green is the recessive one. So please remember these different traits as a recessive and dominating one, because it is responsible to solve your further questions. Clear? Now then Mendel performed actually three type of crosses. What is the cross? When the two varieties get fuses with each other, this is called as crossing. Okay. So Mendel actually done three different types of crosses. One is monohybrid cross, second is dihybrid cross, and third is triple fusion, triple cross or the multiple cross. Okay. So what is the monohybrid cross? When the two parents with single opposite trait get crossed. Okay. Then this is called as monohybrid cross. What is the dihybrid cross? Just increase the number of the contrasting character. When the two parents with the two opposite traits of character is actually crossed with each other, that is considered as the dihybrid cross. For example, if you are taking the monohybrid cross, then you can take only single character, that is the height. Okay. If you are taking the dihybrid cross, then you need to increase one more feature. Suppose that we are taking the shape of the pod and the color of the seed. Okay, any two features with the particular character. Okay, so here we are just trying to obtain the result of monohybrid cross, as I told you. And what is the multiple cross? When more than two characters are crossed with each other, that is called as triplet cross or the multiple cross. Clear? Now here you can see that a pure tall plant, that means a pure dominating parent is crossed with the pure recessive parents. If any recessive character is having in any individual, then it is damn sure it is pure in nature. Okay. So now the pure dominating and pure recessive, which character we are discussing here? Height. Okay. So both are homozygous, then 100% this gametes will be identical. Okay. So when these two will cross with each other, then in the F1 generation we obtain hybrid individual. But what will be the nature of the individual? 100% offspring with the dominating character, because you know that when dominating and recessive traits come together, then only dominating will express itself, recessive is unable to express itself. Clear? So here you can see that this capital T and small t comes together, but what you observe? All the 100% offsprings are dominating. So what is the result of F1 generation? 100% offspring with the dominating character. Clear? Now let allow it to self-pollinate. It is heterozygous in nature, then it will form the two types of gametes, 50% with capital T and 50% with small t. Okay. So here we are using this tabulated form. It is called as the Punnett square. Okay. A scientist Punnett who discovered this procedure for the crossing of these traits. So it is called as Punnett square. Here we are taking the capital T, small t, capital T, small t. Okay. Suppose that if these two traits will cross, then it will give you which result? Capital T, capital T. When these two will cross, then it will give you capital T, small t. This two capital T, small t, this two small t, small t. Clear? Just find out what is the phenotype. If capital T, T, then tall, capital T, small t, heterozygous, but it will show which character? Dominating. So again tall, here is also tall, here is the dwarf one, because it is the recessive characters in the homozygous condition. Clear? So if you observe them phenotypically, then it is 3:1. But when you observe them genotypically, okay, ratio, then it's to 1 is to T is to 1, okay. Remember this ratio of the monohybrid cross, it will help you to find out the ratio and the results of the different examples, okay. Now, then what was the observation of the Mendel in his experiment? So, what he observed? In F1 generation, Mendel found that all pea plants were tall and none were dwarf. That means what? The 100% individuals in F1 generation will show only and only dominating features. Not a single percent is recessive. Okay. He also observed that the pair of traits and found that F1 always resemble their either one of its parents, and the traits of the other parents was not found in them. That means the recessive will not appear. In F2 generation, how you will get the F2 generation? By self crossing the F1 generation. Okay. So he found that the sum of the offspring were dwarf. That means the characters which were not seen in F1 generation now express them in the F2 generation. With monohybrid cross, you learn that 25% of the F2 generation was recessive in nature. Okay, that means this recessive was not observed in F1, but it appears in the F2 generation. Clear? Now the similar results were obtained with the other traits also. Okay. Now the Mendel also found that identical result in the dihybrid cross also. Okay, when he made the dihybrid cross, then in F1 generation 100% individual with the dominating characters. Not a single percent, not a single individual observed as a recessive one. Okay, but when he crossed them, when he allowed them to self-pollinating and observe the result in the F2 generation, then he find that somewhat changes is observed. Later we will discuss about this one. Okay, what inferences of experimentally Mendel found? So Mendel inferred that something was being passed down from parents to offspring through the gametes over successive generation. He called them factors, and now we know them as a gene, because that time nobody knows about the genetic material, nobody knows about the gene, so he named this one as a factor. Okay. Now the genes are the unit of inheritance and they contain the information required to express a traits, right. The genes which codes for a pair of contrasting traits are called alleles or allelomorph. Okay. As I told you, the pair of contrasting character of gene is considered as the alleles. Okay. Now Mendel also proposed that in a true breeding variety, the allelic pair of genes are identical or homozygous, and that means either it is capital TT or small t, that means pure dominating or the pure recessive in nature. Okay, and it will responsible to decide the phenotype of the individual. Okay, then when dominating traits is crossed with the recessive trait, okay, then both will produces what type of gametes? Similar type of gametes, and what will be the result? That is the same as the monohybrid cross ratio. Okay. Now the gametes of the tall TT plants have the allele capital T, and the gametes of the small TT plants will have 100% with the small t. Clear? And this segregation of allele is a random process, and so there is a 50% chance of a gamete containing either allele as verified by the result of the crossings. Okay. Now Mendel found that the phenotype of which one thing? Capital T and small t, that is a heterozygous combination, to be similar as the capital TT parent, because as we discussed earlier, if there is two contrasting traits are there, then which character will appear? Right, it is only the dominating one, right, and this recessive will wait for the next generation to express itself, and only in the homozygous condition it will express itself. Clear? Now when the capital small t character is controlled by a gene, hence it is monohybrid and cross between TT and small t is called monohybrid cross. Okay. Now, one important fact which we are discussing here, that is called as the test cross. Clear? Suppose that you are having a tall plant. So it is only morphologically you can say that, only phenotypically you can say that it is a tall. Okay. But you don't know what is the genotype. Clear? So to confirm the genotype of F1 generation or an unknown individual, we have to cross it with the recessive parent. Okay. Then it will give you the result of which one thing? F2 generation, and you can confirm that whether it is a heterozygous or homozygous. Okay. So see that here you are having this violet color of flower in the plant. Okay. But you don't know whether it is pure or mixed. Clear? Just consider that two possibilities are there. One, that is it is pure dominating or it is mixed dominating. Clear? If it is pure dominating, then it will form 100% identical gametes, and if it is mixed one, then 50% with dominating traits and 50% with recessive traits. Okay. So let them to cross with a recessive parents. As I told you, what is the test cross? When F1 individual is crossed with the recessive parent. Okay, then it is called as test cross. Clear? So then this capital W, small w will give you capital W, small w. Again here capital W, small w, capital W, small w, capital W, small w. And what will be the phenotypic ratio? 100% offspring will be dominating in nature. That means in the next generation you will get all the identical offspring with the dominating feature. So you can confirm that this individual is homozygous in nature. Okay. But suppose that if the second possibility is also there, if it is mixed in nature, then you can see that you will get 50% of offspring, 50% with the dominating features and 50% with the recessive feature. Okay, remember this fact. So this is the test cross. What is the importance of test cross? This test cross is used to confirm the which one thing? The genotype of an unknown individual. Clear? So this is the feature. Now here we are going to discuss the dihybrid cross. As I told you, what is the dihybrid cross? When the two parents with the two pairs of opposite traits get crossed, then this cross is called as dihybrid cross. Okay. So here you can see that the two different traits are taken. One is yellow seed, okay, and the round shape of the seed. Clear? So what are the traits? Color of the seed coat and the shape of the seed. Clear? So what is the dominating one? Yellow and red. And what is the recessive one? That is the green and wrinkle. Okay. Just allow it to form the gametes. So here it will form the gamete with the capital Y and capital R, and here the small y and the small r. Right. When this two will fuses, then in F1 generation you will get the result capital Y, capital R, small r. That means when we observe the result of F1 generation, then 100% of spring of F1 generation will show the dominating character only, that is the yellow color of the seed and the round shape of the seed. Right. Now just allow to form their gametes. Okay. So we will have these four types of gamete. Now we are crossing them with the help of this Punnett square. Okay. So these four type of gametes we will observe: capital Y capital R, capital Y small r, small y capital R, small y small r. The same is also kept here. Just made the cross between these two, you will get result here. These two will give you the result, these two will give you the result. So this way we are having this 16 offsprings. How many? 16 offsprings are there. Okay. So if you will observe the genotype, then it will be 1 is to 2 is to 2 is to 4 is to 1 is to 2 is to 1 is to 2 is to 1. Okay. And what will be the phenotype? It will be 9 is to 3 is to 3 is to 1. Again remember, what is the genotype of F2 generation of diamide cross? 1 is to 2 is to 2 is to 4 is to 1 is to 2 is to 1 is to 2 is to 1. Okay. And what is the phenotypic ratio? It is 9 is to 3 is to 3 is to 1. It will be the same for all the experiments if you are performing with this diamide cross. Clear? Now, so on the basis of this monohybrid and diamide cross, now Mendel finally come to concluded in the form of the laws of inheritance. Clear? And he propounded 3 laws of inheritance: the first law, second law and third law by number. Okay. And law of dominance, consider the first law of inheritance. Law of purity of gametes or law of segregation is considered the second law, and the law of independent assortment is considered the third law of inheritance. Remember, the first two law, first and second law, is actually based on monohybrid cross. Okay. And the third law, that is the law of independent assortment, it is actually based on the dihybrid cross. Clear? So here we are discussing the first law, that is the law of dominance. So what is it? It states that the characters are controlled by genes which occurs in a pair, and when two alternate forms of a traits or characters are present in an organism, only one factor expresses itself in F1 generation, while the other factor, which is the first one dominating and which is the second one recessive, it remains hidden. Okay, and it explains the expression of gene in a cross and 3:1 ratio obtained in the F2 generation. Clear? And this law is actually expressed that or explain that if there is any traits in a heterozygous condition, then only and only the dominating character will exhibit. Clear? It means what? If that individual want or that species want to express the recessive feature, then it will be pure homozygous in nature. Remember this thing. Okay. Now, and this law of dominance is very important for bringing the new character in any generation. Clear? Just like that, if you remember or if you observe in your surrounding, you know about the one variety of the cow, that is the Jersey cow. Okay. This Jersey cow is actually made by the combination of Holstein Friesian, the European breed, and the country breed, Indian country breed. Okay. So the new variety is Jersey, which observe it is more productive than the Indian cow and more resist than the Holstein Friesian. So this way a new breed is obtained which is more productive and more resist in nature. So this way the new character can be observed, and you know that the hereditary defect, okay, the hereditary problems from the any family can be removed by the genetic counseling. Clear? Just like that, the diabetes mellitus, okay, then this leukocytes, this all such thing can be removed by this one. So this is the first law of inheritance. Now we are moving to the second law of inheritance, that is the law of segregation. It is also considered the law of purity of gametes. What is it? It is said that the factors or the alleles of a pair segregate from each other during the gamete formation in a way that a gamete receive only one of the two factors. Okay, that means at the time of gamete formation, 50% goes to one gamete and 50% goes to another gamete. That means the parent, that offspring is having two set of chromosome, one is maternal and second is paternal. So when the gametogenesis will observe, then one complete set without intermixing and intermingling with the other goes to one gamete and second one goes to the another gamete. Okay, and what is the important one? There is no intermixing. they remain separated with each other. So this is called as law of purity of gametes or the law of segregation, and it is responsible to maintain the purity of the characters or the traits. Clear? Now in the third case, the law of independent assortment, it is actually based on the diabit cross ratio. Okay, independent assortment, that means what? Without intermixing, without interfering, without intermingling with each other in the F1 generation, okay, they assorted independently from one generation to next generation. Okay, and whenever they get a chance to mix with each other, then again they will restore their parental condition, right? You remember the diabit cross ratio result? Clear? One parent with the capital YY capital RR and the second parent with the small yy small rr. In F1 generation you observe the capital Y small y capital R small r. But when you allow them to cross and produce the F2 generation, then what do you observe? The first individual was purely dominating and the last 16th individual was purely recessive. It means what? Even in F1 generation they come together, okay, the opposite trait, but without interfering them, they assorted independently. There is no mix up, there is no change in their expression, and when they get a chance of restoring their features, then in F2 generation they again observe that. So that is the result why only we get this 9:3:3:1 as a phenotypic result. So remember, this is the law of independent assortment now. So this all about the inheritance. Now one more important fact and the feature about this chapter, that is the sex determination. Clear? You know that what is the sex determination? The establishment of sex through the different development in an individual at the time of zygote formation is called as sex determination. Okay, it is the process by which the sex of a newborn can be determined. You just wonder that how an embryo which is growing in the womb of a mother may be a male or a female. Clear? So the same thing, the establishment or the settlement of the sex of the growing baby or the individual or that embryo is considered sex determination. Clear? If you observe, then the different species are having the different techniques of producing the or fixing that sex particularly. So here these three possibilities are there. In some animals, the temperature at which the fertilized eggs are kept, it determines whether the developing animal will be male or female. That means there is no role of chromosome. The environmental factor is there who is responsible to determine the nature of the individual, right? In second case, some animals like snails can change their sex, indicating the sex is not genetically determined. Even after maturation, they can be changed, okay? But in human being, if you observe that, then this one determined genetically by the combination of the chromosome in an offspring. Clear? When we talk about the sex determination in the human beings, then we can see that there are two types of chromosome. One is autosome and second is heterosome. You know that. What is the number of chromosome in an individual? 46 chromosomes are there, or you can say that 23 pairs are there. Okay. So out of this 23 pairs, 22 pairs are identical in male and female, and we call it the autosomes. And these are similar and it is responsible for the somatic maintenance and the growth of the body. Clear? But that one pair will make the difference. Okay. It is the heterozygous in nature. Okay, male is having XY chromosome and female is having XX chromosome. Okay, so the gamete formation by this second pair of chromosome, that means the 23rd pair of chromosome, will decide the nature of the individual. Okay, so this cross will make you very clear that, see that here this male is having XY, here we are not taking the autosome, that is the same, because it is same in male and female. Okay, male is having XY and female is XX. That means male is heterozygous and female is homozygous. Male will form two type of gamete, 50% with X chromosome and 50% with Y chromosome. Female is having all the gametes with X chromosome, and even throughout the life it will be the same. Okay, no change will observe. Clear? Then see that what happened with this gametes will fuses. Okay, here you can see that if this X chromosome sperm will fuses with this X chromosome egg, then it will give you the female offspring with XX chromosome. Here it will give you XY1. That means what? When the combination is observed, that means there is 50% chances of the male and female offspring. Okay? If the zygote will receive XX heterosome, then it will be a female, and if it is XY, then it will be a male. So finally we conclude that the nature of the individual will depends on the chromosome, which basically comes from the male. That means the one fact you come to know that in the human beings, the sex is actually determined by the father or the male, not from the female. Okay? So you should be a part of the society to eradicate this myth. The female is giving the birth to the male or female child. Clear? Female can never determine the sex of the individual, because throughout the life she will only and only produce one type of gamete, that is the X, and it is the matter of chance out of that 3 million or 5 million sperms, okay, in which the 50% are with the X chromosome and 50% with the Y chromosome, which two of this will fuses with that single gamete. It is a matter of chance. Okay, so remember that. This way the sex determination is observed in the human beings, right? So this is all about this chapter. Clear? As I told you earlier, the evolution part is now fully deducted from your syllabus for this examination. Okay, so I hope so you made now your all concept very clear. If you have any problem, then can ask me. So till that, thank you very much. Keep learning, keep studying, and do well. Thank you.